Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Parents Informational Roundtable. Very happy to have you here. As always, we have Dr. Gene Hess, founder of The Secret Handshake, here answering your questions when it comes to children with special needs and what we can be doing for them. Got a lot of great summer-themed content today, so very excited to see that in store. As always, we'll be answering your questions live, as well as from those who've been submitted prior to the event. So got a lot of great things. We're going to go ahead and get started. Dr. Gene, how are we doing today?
Oh, well, I am so happy to be here. I will tell you, this is what I say to my peeps. I say, if I was any better, they would bottle me and sell me. It's a good day in Chicagoland.
Very good. Very good. Well, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who are new here for the first time, these monthly roundtables are held every third Tuesday. And they have very specific agenda with what Dr. Jean helps with. So I'll have her walk through that, And then she's also going to be talking about two separate things that she brought new to the event this month that are going to help those parents with the summertime issues, right? I've got my children at home, my junior associates, and within like the first 90 minutes of the first day of summer, they're already asking, I'm bored, what can I do? So Dr. Jean has you covered on today's session.
I do. So I talk about what brings us here. For me personally, what brings me here is I really feel strongly that parents and friends and family of children who have special needs really need to have an expert in their hip pocket. And I am an expert, and I will tell you in just a moment what makes me feel like I have that expertise. I also think that it's super important that we learn how we can support each other. So while I may be the quote expert, it doesn't mean that I know everything. And I certainly enjoy learning from other people. And I do that by hearing your questions and helping answer them and inviting others to help answer them as well. And I have some really cool ways for you to get in touch with me and some resources that I would like to share. So that's the general agenda. And that puts us to the next slide. So lots of people who attend often help us understand who they are and who their special person is and what brings them there and asking for support. And that's my son and I. And if we go to the next slide, I will tell you what then makes me an expert. So I'm the mother of Alex. He is 25 years old. He has autism. I have advocated for parents and families of children with special needs for over 15 years, and I taught for a long, long time. And I'm still teaching. I am in the last few days of teaching K-12 special education online. That's been a delightful challenge and an interesting chapter in my life. And for those who are curious, I started that before COVID shut the world down and have continued since. And I also teach college. So somebody asked me this weekend, Thomas, what I teach. And I simply said everything. And they're like, how can that be? I said, well, K-12, college, my son, families. I think that's pretty much everybody. Don't you think?
I think that's enough for now, right? That's a pretty full load.
Indeed. So I think that that's what gives me some expertise in the field. And one of the things that I get asked a lot this time of the year is, oh my God, I've got these kids for 12 weeks. What do I do with them? And the idea for developing a list of how to survive the summer originated with a friend of mine who has 3 children with special needs. And we typically go out for lunch sometime in early to mid-May, and we brainstorm. Let's write down as many ideas as we possibly can, because she has 3 kids for 3 months. And so the idea for sharing some ideas about surviving summer comes out of that experience for the last several years. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that you can do. And if there isn't something here that is appealing, then people can certainly simply type in to their favorite browser, help with summer ideas, because that's what we need. We need help. Those of us who have children with special needs know that the chaos that exists in our home is pretty constant and often as unique as our children. And so the activities that we need in order to help manage a summer vacation are usually as unique and individualized as our children and their skills. So these are just some ideas. And what I like to think about is, so what's a given? What can I do that's a given? We need to maintain a routine. Kids thrive on a routine. School is a routine. If you ask them what they do during their school day, they will have absolutely no problem telling you that they arrive and they have an arrival routine. And when they start a class, they have a routine that they follow in every class, and then the content, and then the wrap up and move to the next class. So the routine is super important. If you can attain and maintain a summer schedule, a summer routine, that's going to be amazingly helpful. I personally suggest writing it down. My son is in his mid-20s. We still write things down. Yesterday, we had a holiday. Juneteenth was yesterday. I didn't teach. That was different. That wasn't his normal routine. First thing we did when we had breakfast was sit down and what was yesterday going to look like? So that's my number one management tool is sit down and make a list so your kids know what to expect and how they're going to move through the day. And then the rest of the day is whatever you want it to be, everything and anything from get them up and active and doing something, go explore some place or something, have quiet time, quiet things that they can do, and really just develop that set of activities or skills that you want to have your kids engage in every day. And Thomas, a special note is bored is okay. Don't solve bored for
Right.
them. Being bored then forces creativity. They have to think of what it is that they can do and how they can do it in order to beat the boredom. And so I am a strong proponent of, I hear that you're bored. I'm really sorry that you're bored. What can you do? You have a room full of toys. You have a corner full of crafts. You have go do something, set a timer. I'll talk to you in, and then whatever is appropriate for your kids. If they're young, it may be 10 or 15 minutes. If they're older, it could be 20 to 30 or more, but give them an opportunity to figure out how to fix bored. It's super important to allow that to happen. There you go.
I love that because I do have to remind myself, just to your point, it's okay for them to be bored. They've got to learn how to address it and survive it. That's a good life skill, and we are definitely focusing on that this summer at our house.
Absolutely. And the research shows that if they're able to learn how to cure their bored, they will be a more creative adult because they've learned how to step out of a place that's uncomfortable. We don't like to be bored. It's not a place that we like to sit as humans in general. And so in order to solve that problem, they have to get creative. And being creative is one of those things that tends to be organized and managed out of us over time. And so it's a great skill to have.
I love that. So I love this idea for surviving summer. This is great.
Mhm.
But I also want to preface it because you've actually gone a step further with another set of ideas. So we'll go
I
ahead and move
have.
that slide now. You can work through it and
Beautiful.
tell people how to kind of take this to the next level or
Yeah,
what's your
happy to.
different way.
I am ready. So one of the things that I set up with my friend who has the 3 children who have special needs is she herself will tell you that she may have some spectrum behaviors. I would call them spectrum with a dash of ADHD and a side of OCD. But, you know, I would only say that here. I wouldn't say that to her face. So nobody tell her. And hopefully she doesn't see any part of the recording. I'm just kidding. We've talked about it and I tease her, so it's okay. But she really likes things amazingly organized. And so we came up with theme days. She is also somebody who really believes strongly that her children need to be able to be as independent as possible, regardless and in spite of having whatever special abilities they have. I'm certainly a proponent of that. And so we came up with a list of things she could teach her children about staying safe. and she chose to have a safety Sunday. So when they get home from church, they have something, and she teaches them everything from their address to street crossing. We added parking lots when they were old enough to understand that they needed to navigate parking lots safely. We've talked about stranger danger, how to understand when somebody is asking you something that may be too private and how to address that. We've talked about peer pressure. So Safety Sunday, all of those things that we may not stop and think about, we have to teach our kids. And I believe strongly we have to teach our kids, because if we don't, who's going to? That's my question. So I don't leave it to somebody else. If I want my son to know something, I make sure that it starts here. It may be reinforced or retaught somewhere else, but I make sure that I know he knows. Can I tell a story about that, Thomas? I had something
Please.
just
Yes.
this week. So
Absolutely.
I was busy. I was unable to answer the door when the doorbell rang. And so my son, in his mid-20s, was responsible and went to answer the door. He didn't come in. He didn't come in. I finished what I was doing. He was coming in, and he said, "There are people outside, Mama. They tell me that they are with," and he names an organization. We'll go with that. We'll keep it big and broad. And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, they were asking me." And he tells me quickly that they're asking him how old he is and if he has a job and this and that. I'm like, people shouldn't be asking you that. So, "Well, Mama, they have ID." And I said, "Well, that, let's go find out." So I go out and I find out that they are investigators of a sort, and they're asking questions about the neighborhood in general. But I was uncomfortable with that. I didn't answer any of their questions because I didn't feel like I should. So I came back in and I'm like, "So why don't we talk about stranger danger? Let's review that." So over lunch, we had a conversation about what's okay to say and what's not okay to say, and how much do you tell somebody that you don't really know. So even if you've already taught them something and you think they know, hands down, no question, it doesn't hurt to review things that you think are already learned. So we have a fire safety plan. Sometimes we go over that and we'll say, "Okay, so how do we get out of the house?" And here's one that lots of people don't remember. Where are you going to meet once you get out of the house safely? Where are you going to meet as a family? So we have designated 2 trees that are far away from our house, but can still be seen, so that we know that that's where we're going to meet. And we've done all sorts of those kinds of things. So that's Safety Sunday. Make something Monday. Anything that you can think of that can be made, and you have this stuff in the house. Doesn't have to be just one project. And if you find yourself with time left over after your Safety Sunday talk, you can talk about what you're going to do on Monday and start to get things ready. I also believe that with this and anything on this list, the more you can involve the kids and the family in getting things ready, the higher the buy-in, and the more likely that whatever's being planned is going to be successful. Because if you've been a part of the plan, you may actually want to be a part of the execution. If you run out of things or ideas, the internet is your friend. Just jump on and say, "What can I make with?" I had a whole bunch of burlap. I have no idea where I got it from. I didn't know what to do with it either. Crafts to make with burlap. 10,012 things I could do. So Tuesday's easy. It's a time to read. We read in our house every single day. Not every family does, but on the time to read Tuesday, it's not just read the story, but ask questions as you read. Maybe you can act out the story or come up with a play or dress as the character while you read. So not just sit down and read a book, but how can you make that reading something that's enjoyable? Because both as an avid reader and a teacher, there really is no greater skill in the world as far as I'm concerned. A love of reading is critical. What's cooking Wednesday? Again, have them be involved at any level that they can be. And it can be as easy as ants on a log. Do you know what that is, Thomas?
Is that the snack?
Yeah.
All right, I do know it.
I met somebody who had no idea what that was. So we had to tell them that you're Their
Yeah,
celery sticks get cream cheese or peanut butter with raisins, and they were like, never heard that before.
there
They
you
were
go.
of an age that that wouldn't have been part of their lexicon. So it can be as easy as a snack and as complex as make a meal. It depends again on the age of your children, their abilities and skills, and how much patience you have as a parent. Boy, is that an important ingredient in all of this too. Thoughtful Thursday, do something that gives back to the community. Sometimes that's as easy as go pick up trash along your street, or take some clothes that don't fit anymore and give them to a thrift shop or a community clothing closet or something like that. Again, internet is your friend. There are lots of places where you can find out if there are volunteer opportunities. Those are important as well. But I think for our family, at any rate, being able to give back is a really important value to us. And so we actually make plans to make sure that we do that. Fun Fridays, plan an outing together. I will be very honest. Sometimes it's a Monday, not a Friday, because Fridays can often be crowded. That's a time when lots of people make those plans to do things. So you may want to come up with some other really cool name for Monday and Friday and flip those, but that's up to you. This is simply suggestion. So all sorts of free things through the summer. I had a conversation with a local librarian. There are two things that they do that I think are really cool in our local library. One is they have something called a travel pack. And if you give them like 2 weeks notice that you're going out of town and you tell them the kinds of things that your children like, they will make a backpack or a tote bag full of materials that your child can have in the car while you're traveling. How cool is that, Thomas?
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
I like that. And the other thing that they have, well, there are two more things. So one is they have a reading program. And if your child reads X amount and fills in this and then goes in, they get little prizes and such from the library. And the last one that I want to talk about, to plug local libraries, they have something called a museum pass. That's what it's called locally. When I talked to my local librarian, she said that that's a pretty widespread program. It might be called something else in your community, but the library and local museums and historical sites and some parks sort of join forces, and they create a booklet, and you can go and get tickets to these places, either free or dramatically reduced from your library for families. So we have actually been able to go to some of the really cool museums in downtown Chicago and some of the local zoos on this museum pass. And so that may be something that families want to check out, because whoa, that helps a lot. And then
Yeah.
Social Skills Saturday. Holy moly. Anything and everything. We have really expanded this. So it's started out as learning manners, and my son has autism. So how do you read faces? He really likes saying, show me a happy face, or show me a concerned face, or show me. And so we did that for a long time. And now it's, Mama, tell me a time when. And so all of those things, how do you make friends? How do you know somebody is a friend? All sorts of things. And so that's a way to have things to do for the summer that are a bit more organized, and all of them have lots and lots of ideas that are on the internet. So if you come up totally blank and don't know, don't be afraid to look it up, get some ideas, and involve your kids in the planning too, because then you know that you're doing things that they like and they're interested in, and will help make them better junior associates.
Very good. I love that. I really like the thought about the Fun Fridays, but potentially doing it on Mondays because you want to have a good outing. But I do remember when you're talking about the holidays, sometimes you have to get count for crowd size, crowd vibe, and everything like that. So wonderful.
Yep. I like
All
it.
right, so we're going to talk a little bit because Dr. Jean is actually making this available to people who want to have access to it. We're going to tell you in a little bit, though, how to make that happen. A little bit of a tease there. So
I have almost 100 ideas.
I don't doubt that at all. In terms of your ways to help parents, I can certainly imagine that.
So there are at least a dozen for each day, and some of them have more. So there are lots and lots of ideas, because I think it's really certainly had days during the summer when I'm like, oh my God, if all we do is blow bubbles one more time. Yeah. So sometimes the sanity is as much for us as adults as it is for our kids.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the great. I love what you put together for as a resource to help parents. Again, we're talking about how you can get a copy of this at the end here, but we do want to go ahead and go to the question time. Now, obviously, this is part of the event where people are able to ask questions. For those of you who are live, you can certainly put them into the chat box. I'll be happy to feed them to Dr. Jean here in a moment. We also have the ability to get questions ahead of time, and we're going to start with one of those now. Since this is a summer-themed event, a summer-themed roundtable, majority of these questions are going to come from that, but we will add in some of the generic or general questions here as well too. So Dr. Jean, here's the first question. Are there any inclusive summer camps or programs in the area that cater to children with disabilities? And can you provide recommendations or resources to help me find suitable options?
I think that's a great question. So yes, there are. And I will tell you that there are so many more resources available now than there were when my son was young. And so I am super glad and super happy. Lots of progress has been made in the area of, so what do we do? What kinds of opportunities do we offer our kiddos who have special abilities? So I don't know what area you are from. However, I do know that if you type in camp for special needs children, or if you type into a search bar of your choice, camps for, and then put in the special ability that your child has and the age group, then you will probably be able to come up with lots of really cool options. Some of them would be low cost, no cost, or have scholarships. Some of them may have a cost attached, so you can make some choices that way. I also know that there are camps that are available at a national level. And I certainly know people who have sent their kids, again, to specialty camps for their particular special ability, and that those have been really successful for them.
Very good. Next question we have to that point. How can I ensure that my child's specific needs and accommodations are met during summer camp, summer activities and programs?
So again, it depends on the activity, but if it's a summer school, then their IEP and all of the accommodations that are part of the IEP follow them to the summer school. And if it's a camp and it's a camp for children who have special needs, then I would assume that there would be some way to describe or explain your child's. If not, then I certainly would make a list of them. And that's one of the things that I have done routinely. In fact, there is now a document on my computer that says, here are the behavioral needs, here are the physical needs, here are the emotional needs, here are ways to be able to address them. So super easy, presented up front.
Got it. Next question from a parent there. They said, are there any local support groups or parent networks that I can connect with during the summer for guidance, advice, or shared experiences?
So awesome question. And this is going to be as unique as your community. And so some communities have things like play groups that are organized and meet routinely so that everybody gets to share the wealth of kids around and available, so that they have those opportunities to socialize and develop their social skills over the summer. There are also times when, again, the internet is your friend, and you type in play groups or whatever you can come up with. I think that I would look to the park districts. If you have active park districts, I would look to the schools, depending on the age of your child. It's possible that there are organized opportunities, or what is their peer group through the school year? And are you friends and good enough friends with those families to talk about developing an opportunity for the kids to hang out. Does that answer the question?
Let me check in the chat here. Okay, that looked like we got a thumbs up there. Very good.
All
Let's
right.
go ahead and build on that though. Because the next question, can you provide information on accessible parks, playgrounds, or recreational areas where my child can safely engage in outdoor activities?
So this one is a tiny bit different and it might cover another question. So I'm going to go broad on this one. So if I'm going somewhere new and I'm not certain whether or not they have the kinds of equipment or safety kinds of precautions that I think are required for my son, I call ahead and I'll say, my son and I are planning to visit blah, blah, blah. My son has these needs. Can those needs be met? If so, who do I talk to ahead of time? So I do this with like tourist places when we travel. I've done this when we go to, my son happens to like history. So when we go to a historical residence, I need to know what's there. So can he get to point A and point B? Or are there specific things that I know trigger him? So he happens to be sensitive to a certain type of lighting. And so I need to ask that. My son tends towards loud behaviors. And so I will often call ahead and ask if he gets loud, where can we go so that we don't distract from other people's experience of whatever it is that, or wherever it is that we're going. And so I have a story about that one. So I can make those arrangements too. I try to make sure that I contact the place that we're going to visit and I know those things up front. So that's the best way that I would handle it. Everything from a park to anything that has some kind of special admission, like a museum or a historical residence or any place else that you want to go. And wow, what about an amusement park? Oh, talk about the potential for a great deal of overstimulation. So I would have that conversation too.
All right, so you have a story. We're starting a new segment on these roundtables called Parent Survival Stories. Tell us your survival story from
There
this
you go.
month.
Here's my survival story. So we traveled about 3.5 hours away from home to go to the grand opening of a specific exhibit in a specific museum. And so I called ahead, and this is a highly preferred, favored activity of my son's. And I knew that he was chance that he was going to get very overstimulated. So I called the museum.
Jim, I
I
gotta
said,
stop.
hello, my name is,
You cut out there.
am I back?
You're back now, but you probably need to reset just to make a clean edit.
Can do. So my son and I were going to a special exhibit opening at a museum 3.5 hours away from home. And I called ahead to find out whether or not they had a place where he could be quiet in case, well, no, actually, when he got overstimulated by everything that was happening in this really cool new exhibit. And could we do X and Y? And did they have this kind of this lighting that I know that he is sensitive to, or just all these questions to make sure that his day was okay. But just as importantly, that everybody else that was there had a good time too. And as it turned out, one portion of the exhibit was kind of like a hands-on sort of thing. My son was probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 at the time. And so the upper edge of the kind of people who are kids that would be able to use this space reasonably. And there was another parent who had a child who was clearly younger, smaller than my child. And this person kept sort of needling me. Are you sure he's supposed to be here? Are you sure this is okay? Shouldn't he be somewhere else? And I finally turned to him and I said, so I don't understand why you think you need to say this to me. it's not like he's unsupervised. I'm here, I'm watching. Yes, but my son can't. I was like, well, but my son has made room for him. So if your son chooses not to be there, it sounds like your son's choice, not my son's insistence. And so it got a little heated. And sure enough, we needed to step away. And the museum had a basket of books in a quiet place. The books were all about the theme of this new exhibit. And we were there for 15 or 20 minutes. Everything got chilled back out. And it was because I had called ahead to make sure that everything was okay. Hadn't expected to meet an openly hostile fellow parent, but I'd already planned for the potential. So a quick call ahead, explain your situation. I have yet to be engaged with anybody at any kind of place that we wanted to visit that didn't appreciate, wow, we're super glad that you called. We're happy to accommodate. And so don't be afraid as an involved parent, that's what I call myself, an involved parent, to call in and make those kinds of arrangements or ask those kinds of questions.
I love that. And you've spoken about that before, about how sometimes those parents, well-intentioned, however big or little, can present an issue. And I think that gets into the next question here, because it's
Oh,
perfect.
look at that.
Obviously, in summertime, right, there's all sorts of fun summer treats, ice cream, popsicles, things like that. How do I deal with well-intentioned friends and family who feed my child too much or too much of the wrong thing?
So I have two approaches to this. One is, I will say to my son, because this is a super important skill, will say to my son, you need to know when to say no, because I think that that's really important. Thomas, there are times when we as adults have to say no when somebody's offering something we really want and we know we shouldn't have it. So I think that that's a super important skill to encourage. It doesn't always happen. Okay, rarely does it happen the way that I want it to. But I think it's important to have that conversation so that there's an awareness on our kids' part that at some point they may have to say no. So that's number one. Number two, or at least put a limit on it. I do that a lot. And so, okay, you can have one to pick a number, right? Whatever is appropriate for whatever's being offered. And so that agreement is made before we ever get somewhere. In case somebody offers something, what's a reasonable number? And so we've navigated up to, he can choose the number and I will either support it or say, are you sure? Can we talk about that? Or I go directly to the source and I'm like, look, we have had blah, blah, blah. We just can't have. So if this is on your list of things to do while we are here, can we cut it back or can we save it till next time? And so I tend to be really proactive. And I don't know about other parents, but there are times when mine is too sugared up. It is just really hard later. And so I try to be proactive. And there are two kinds of people who receive that. One will say, oh, wow, you know what? I hadn't really thought about that. Thanks for telling me. I can absolutely save it. Or the other one that's like, this is your problem. I'm like, well, okay, thank you very much. I hear what you say. We may have to take a pass. So now it's not my problem. I mean, they were well-intentioned, but I have to take care of me and mine.
Absolutely. Now, does that, so we talked about like the food piece of that, right? But obviously during summer, kids are playing, kids are outside. Sometimes they can get a hold of toys or be giving gifts that may be inappropriate, like they're too young, too old, safety hazard, whatnot. Anything additionally you would say for parents to help manage that well-intentioned piece again, outside of food, maybe towards like a stimulation piece or toy piece or whatnot?
Right. So same rules apply. So that gives lots of opportunity to talk about sharing. Is it something? So I'll talk to my son. So if there are only this number and there are more people than there are things here, how do you share? He hates to share. He's autistic. He's amazingly egocentric. It's all about him. I want. How many of you have heard that? Right. So we talk about that. And sometimes he does well and sometimes he doesn't, even in his mid-20s. And so that's a conversation to have. So it's the same approach. How can I teach my child to deal with the situation before I have to deal with it? And if I see the situation headed in a place that is potentially difficult, I will ask the supervising adult or the hosting adult, is it possible to, or can we, and just have that conversation. And if it's not, then, I try really hard not to be a helicopter parent, but if it looks like I'm going to need to intervene, then I will intervene. So, and I have another story.
Another parent
do.
survival story with Dr. Gene Hess.
There you
Go
go.
ahead.
I think I have told this story before, so bear with me. My son, as I noted, is a fairly loud child, enjoys making sounds a lot. And so there are parents who will complain about, oh, so-and-so gave me blah, blah, blah. And I had to wait until the battery ran out. And then I just conveniently didn't have a battery. Don't you hate that? And I said, well, look, and I said, hey, Alex, what does and insert the sound of an animal or a machine or whatever. What sound does that make? Very loud, lots of high-pitched, not good for my ears. And I'll look at whoever is saying we didn't replace the battery. And I said, and you can't take the battery out of that. It's just there.
It's always there, right?
Always there.
So let's build upon that then.
Sure. Why
What
not?
strategies or tips do you have for managing children's sensory needs during the summer, especially in new or unfamiliar environments?
Oh, sensory needs in new or say it again. Sensory needs in.
What strategies or tips do you have for managing my child's sensory needs during the summer, especially in new or unfamiliar environments?
All right. Good question. So in general, I think it's easier to meet sensory needs in the summer than it is at other times of the year because there is generally less structure, unless you're my OCD friend who likes to plan everything. And so there's greater opportunity to do water play or sand play or whatever other thing is what your child enjoys. They can be amped up if they need more energy. They can chill out if they need to have less energy input. And so I think summer in general is a great time to be able to play with that sensory diet and find out what works and what doesn't work and to what extent and how much do they need, and help them be really verbal about that so that they can learn their body and their needs better. So that's number one. Number two, in unfamiliar places, I had a backpack. I just carried a backpack. And we had little things that you could squish or stretch, and we had all sorts of things. So when in doubt, take your own. Don't rely on somebody else having something that's going to provide the right sensory diet for your child. And or when you are someplace and you see that there is something that you know that they really like, put a time limit on it. So there's a children's museum not too far from here, and they have this huge water table that's like fills this great big space, and my son could spend hours in there because he's my water baby. So we set a timer. Here's a timer. So 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left. It's almost time. Can we start moving toward the door? Yeah.
Very good. Let's go to that because I actually know the children's museum that you're talking about, having been there with my children as well too. Always helpful to have ideas, right? That's kind of the
Absolutely.
theme today. Let's plan ahead.
Mhm.
Are there any local events, festival, or community activities that are inclusive and welcoming for children with disabilities?
I would like to think, Thomas, that we are really to a place that lots and lots of children are now accepted regardless of what they look like and who they are. The reality is not always. And so I think that that phone call ahead of time, especially, it depends on where and the special abilities your child is too. So if your child is non-ambulatory or nonverbal or has more needs, then a quick call ahead of time to find out what accommodations are available or not available is a really great idea. If your child is older and it looks like something that might be meant for younger children, then call and find out. We actually did that once. We went to a mother-son something thinking that, it's really cool. We're going to go do something mother-son. And it ended up being mother and very young son. And
Oh,
so we were absolutely the wrong demographic for that. But it didn't say that. It was a mother and son thing at a local park. And we thought that that was really cool. So that quick phone call is really helpful, but it's also, take things that work. So as the ever proactive parent, I make sure that I have things. I don't remember where we were recently. My son is a fidgeter and I could tell that he was getting anxious. And so I handed him something to fidget with, because the next thing that was going to happen, we were in public, lots of things that we'd been doing, the hands were about to go in the mouth, and it's not safe to do that right now. So what could I hand him to keep his hands busy? So just be proactive, think ahead.
got it. Couple of questions have come through the chat line there, to a little in topic, but a little off what we've been talking about with some activities. Mom asked, how can I ensure that my child's progress or skills developed during the school year are maintained or further enhanced during the summer break?
Yeah. So Thomas, did you notice that there were theme days?
Absolutely.
It's no accident. So time for reading on Tuesday, right? If you're crafting, then counter add or whatever. Make a craft around whatever subject they're good in or they're not so good in. So all of those things can be, oh, wait, and wasn't there a social skills Saturday? Yeah, just build it in. Build it in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And if you don't think you have the skill set, then a really quick search will help you build it in.
I'm gonna cut. This is a cut line here. I'm looking at the rest of these and I feel like we've kind of covered them.
Yep.
So I can go line by line, or if you want, we can start doing the new district ones.
So we negotiated no TV, but he's found music that's loud, and I don't know if you can hear it, but it's distracting for me.
No. If you want, we could also, because we just went through a majorities, we got some really good content. If you want to call it even for now and we just start fresh at same district new school year at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'll make it.
But wait, I need the question about how to pack for vacation. I haven't gone over. What do you do? Because that's different.
So, oh, I'm missing that on this list, or I'm not seeing.
Thomas, your question about you were parenting on your vacation. It didn't feel like a vacation.
Right.
I need that because I have a whole bunch.
Oh, okay. I got you. So we'll do that one. We'll do the parenting in a different location question.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do packing for vacation as well, or is those gonna be like kind of the same thing?
We'll just do vacation, and this will be a longer one.
Okay. And then when we're done with that question, I'll do the piece about I'll pull the slide deck back up. I'll talk about going to book a time. I'll talk about Dr. Gene 360 for the resources, and then we'll call it even. Cool?
Cool.
Perfect. All right, 1 second here. Oh, I gotta get ready for fast cash. Whew. Or 100K coaching call. All right. So Dr. Gene, I know part of the perks about working with you is that sometimes I get to feed in questions and I get to have help with the children. You and I were talking recently, we were on vacation. I made the comment to you that as a parent of young children, specifically 3 of them, vacation doesn't feel like a vacation. It really feels like more just parenting in a new location. So what strategies do you have for obviously being a responsible parent, doing that, but still being able to have fun and do things and make the most of that vacation experience?
Well, Thomas, been there, done that. I was super glad that you asked the question. So I'm going to start at the beginning because part of it happens before you ever leave. And so here is what I have found. I traveled with my son, Alex, for the first time when he was 3 months old. And we haven't really stopped. His age and disability don't stop the fact that I really like to travel. And I've been to 41 states and he's been to 27. So he goes with. And one of the ways that we do that is, how do we plan to leave to begin with? And what kind of calls do we make? All of those things that I mentioned before. So what do we need to know about where we're going? And I have a secret weapon. So I have at least 3 things that I want to share. First, I don't know, Thomas, if you have AAA, but AAA is your friend, and here is why. AAA has travel agents inside, and if you are a AAA card holder, they will help you plan your trip, and it costs not much. Before COVID, it was like $25 a trip. After COVID, it might be 35, perhaps 40, and they do an amazing job. So if you tell them where you want to go and the kinds of things that you like, they will make hotel reservations. They will help with buying tickets to whatever it is that you want to attend. They're amazing. I absolutely rely on these people. And I go in, I take the kid. He says, these are the kinds of things I like. And the travel agent will say, oh, well, what about this on the computer? What about? And so all of that, I don't have to do all of that. It's all done for me. Wow. 2 thumbs up. I already belong to AAA. Use what I have, right? So that's 1. 2, have you really had problems finding the shirt and the shorts and the socks and the, are you ready? So take the largest item of clothing, usually shorts, maybe, and put the shirt on top, put the underclothes on top, roll them. Here is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We usually stop on the 4th day or the 5th day at a place that has a washer dryer so that we can wash and dry and put them all back together, roll in a suitcase. Here's the brilliant, well, I think it's brilliant. We have a tote bag that is our night clothes. So the jammies and the toothbrushes and the soaps and whatever other kinds of things that we need at night. Because we do road trips. This is what we do. This is where this comes in. Grab the tote bag that has this is what we need at night. And we have an electronics bag because, wow, can you live without cords and such anymore? Just can't. And so grab those. When we grab the jammy bag, we grab a roll of clothes and it goes in there. And so now I have tomorrow's clothes and I have what I need in that bag. I go into a hotel room. The big bag never comes out. So now the big bag stays in the trunk and I have the bags that I need. You have 3. So your oldest may get to carry his own and you and your wife may have 1 other kids. And so now you still only have a small amount going into a hotel rather than having to completely unpack the car and then completely repack the car. Because then the next day when you come back to the car, you bring last night's dirties that are not rolled because now you know they're dirty. They go in a separate spot in the car and then you're good to go. And the next day you grab another roll and you put them right back in wherever they belong and that's done. So that part is so much easier. It's so much less hassle and you have that much less that you have to keep track of. So I love that. And the parenting part. So they're just rules of the road that are different than rules at home. And even a 3 or 4-year-old will understand the difference between being on the road and being at home. So I have a 3-question rule. You can ask me 3 questions. When you've hit question 3, I can't hear your question until the next time starts, right? Because the daddy, can I, mommy, can we do this? Can we do all of that? No. So with 3 kids, you'll get 9 questions, but then it stops. Your question bank, you're full. And it's 3 total, not 3 for you and 3 for mom. because that's cheating. Manage it. How do you manage it? It is super important. Have a bedtime, as much routine that is similar to home as you possibly can, so that that gives you some time for you too. Because I find that that's what's missing, right? It's like 24/7. You are on 24/7. Mom gets a timeout just like everybody else. Set the timer. Mom gets 15 minutes. Go away. That's that whole boredom thing, right? Find something to do. No bloodshed. This isn't allowed. And give yourself 15 minutes. So it's manage it. How do you manage it so that you can have fun, they can have fun? It's less work, more organized. It takes a little more effort up front to think it through, but it's so worth it when you're on the trip itself. Does that help at all?
That I love that. I really like that idea of the way that they're packing, because then it's very grab and go versus
Mhm.
what we've done in the past where all the shirts are in a clump, all the pants are in a clump, and then as they're pulling stuff out, it ends up
Yeah.
on the floor. You feel
Oh,
overwhelmed.
we have a swim bag too.
Mm,
Suit, towel, swim shoes, all in one bag.
I
Yeah,
love that. So
don't
it's
have to do that. Yes.
especially if you're
And
driving, like when we went to Florida,
yeah,
you don't want to get all the stuff out just to have
Mhm.
access to pajamas and put it back in.
We did a 2,000-mile road trip in 2 weeks, and that was one. Oh my gosh, what the people at AAA did for us was truly remarkable. All the hotels were taken care of for us, all of the special things. So we were out west. So we did a rodeo thing. We did some kind of singing cowboys sit down and have this big barbecue and then this dinner dining show. It was phenomenal. They're things I wouldn't have known. And so the AAA agent came up with all these things and then presented them. And Alex and I said, yes, yes, no, and no. And
Mhm.
oh, at this point, this hotel has a washer dryer. So that was the day we did our clothes. We did 2 days there because then we could do a full day doing something. We could make sure that we did our clothes and we could do something else. It was great. I absolutely highly recommend that. People don't know. So if you pay like $100 a year and you pay $35 for a trip, it's still $135. What would you pay an actual
Right,
travel agent,
right.
right? It's just fabulous. I love that. And yes, we had a pool in every hotel, so grab the pool bag. I forgot that. So it was fab. It was so organized. It was great. Now, some people would say it's me who's OCD, but I would much rather travel knowing that I don't have the hassle of pulling everything out and trying to figure out how to put it back in. It was great. And now they have those little cubes. Have you seen those?
Yeah, yeah.
That too. So color code them, right?
So the big takeaway from survival or thriving the summer is a little bit
Mhm.
of planning goes a long way.
It
I
really
love that.
does.
And I love that
And it doesn't take a lot of time to plan ahead.
and what I love is that you've put together these resources, and we're actually going to talk about that real quick. For
Yeah.
folks who are interested in working with Dr. Jean, a couple of different ways that she can help you. First, if you'd be interested in speaking with her one-on-one, we have a 15-minute phone call option. If you go to askdrjean.com, you can book a time to speak with her and learn a little bit more about how she can help you as an advocate and what those services might entail. She also offers additional resources for parents with neurodiverse children. Go to drjean360.com and you can get the self-care guide, the communication guide, and just as we spoke about, we're going to be adding those summer resources there as well too. Dr. G, we want to be respectful of everyone's time. We'd like to keep these to a tight hour. Your final thoughts and parting words, as it were, before we end the Zoom session today.
Summer does not have to be chaotic. Summer can be a fun time. It can be a time where everybody gets a chance to sort of unwind, let their hair down, although that's a little hard when it's this short. However, metaphorically speaking, and it doesn't have to be a scary time that's filled with, I told you, I told you. How many times do I have to tell you? That whole finger waggling thing. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be it can be planned without being over planned. It can be routine without being super structured. And the more boundaries that you have for your kids, the happier they are. I know that that's counterintuitive to a summer vacation, but kids really thrive on knowing what they can do, when they can do it, to what extent. They'll push the boundaries, but that's our job as a parent. And there can be lots of learning. You can find really cool, super new things that you didn't know about. And so that's what I love about summer.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for attending. Make sure if you have other parents that you know in your communities that would be served by this event, please invite them. You can see Dr. Jean again on drjean360.com, has links to all of our social channels, all of her events, and all of her resources.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jean.
Bye.
All right, and we'll cut it here. All right, so we'll edit it and we'll be good to go.
Awesome.
All good?
Yeah, get ready for your stuff. Same bat time, same bat channel.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jean.
I'm gonna do the school things then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just go to that next list right down there.
Yep. All righty. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.